Okay, for this video, I'm going to show how to do a bind-off style buttonhole. I'm working on 2x2 ribbing, and I've come upon where I want to place my buttonhole. In this case, I'm going to do a 2-stitch bind-off because it'll be nice to have the buttonhole going across the entirety of it. Otherwise, it could potentially look a little lopsided or things like that. Of course, that will make a larger size buttonhole than, say, this one from earlier, which is a yarn over style buttonhole. And if your buttons are larger, that would be a great option. This style also has a good amount of stretch to it, and so that's another reason to consider it. Okay, so the first step is to go ahead and work your first bind off. So we're not going to bind off of here because that would interrupt this these two knitted stitches. It would bind off this stitch here. Since this one, there's the focus. Since this is the first stitch we want bound off, we're just going to purl it since it's a purl stitch. Remove your stitch marker, and then right here, normally for a normal bind off, we would purl this stitch, but because the next thing that I'm going to do is a little bit atypical, I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, that stitch right there is a knit stitch. Things will make a little bit more sense in a second, but I'm actually going to knit this stitch. We are going to bind off this stitch just like normal, pulling it up and over the other stitch. So that stitch is bound off right there. To bind off this next stitch though, I actually didn't love the way that looked across this next one. I didn't like how it basically will cut off that knit stitch right there with a band, and so instead I'm going to knit two together for this last one, and I'm just undoing what I just did. So we're back to the one bound off stitch. To knit two together, I'm going to slide this back onto the left hand needle and then just knit two together right here. And the reason I went ahead and knit that second stitch, or the stitch right before the knit two together, is because when I purled it, it was just kind of showing in the behind of this knit stitch, and I thought it looked better when I sampled it with the knitting, and so there we go. We've reduced by 2 stitches. In the normal bind off buttonhole, you'd actually just bind off those 2 stitches like normal. The knit two together is to reduce that stitch count so that when we cast back on, we'll cast on 2 stitches up here, and just to make that appearance a little bit nicer. And so let's go. If that next stitch were another purl stitch or anything, I actually don't think that there'd be any issue going ahead and purling that stitch instead of doing that as a knit. It was just to neaten things up. And we're making our way back to the other side. Sorry about it getting out of focus again. Alrighty, and so we're back to the bound off area right here. I'm going to purl that stitch, and then honestly the backwards loop cast on isn't typically my favorite, but for this purpose it is basically the easiest option. So I did 2 stitches using the backwards loop cast on, and then I'm going to go ahead and purl right here, and I'm just going to do this as kind of a modified short row so that I can show you the other side here. Okay, so that's our initial buttonhole here, and I'm gonna just come back across so that you can see what it looks like with a little bit more worked up right there. Okay, and since these were originally pearls, we're gonna go pearl across the backwards loop cast on right there, and then knit. And once I get to the end, just because it'll be a little easier to see what it looks like, there you go. So right here, I really preferred the way that looks. You still have a nice sized opening right there, and it's a pretty clean looking buttonhole. And so that's my 2 stitch in between the 2x2 ribbing buttonhole. Awesome, thanks.